So one of the commenters on this channel the other day, who was there was a lot of kindness being passed around about me and Larry, actually, both of us, for a change. It's usually just Larry. And he said, Larry, that you are our own Jewish Yoda. So I don't know if he was talking about your looks or about your wisdom. I don't know what he had in mind.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, well, Larry, we were just talking about in the green room that we did cross over the 220 today. Next stop, 270, and you say?
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll hit 270, but I just don't think we're going to cross there now. I mean, we could go down to 160 as well, as easily as we go to 220. Peggy posted today that there's going to be a restatement of the hiring numbers,
right?
And they're talking about a 690,000 what do they call it?
Adjustment.
Adjustment. Can you imagine 690,000 adjustment?
To 1 million. It could be as high as 1 million.
As high as 1 million. Now, I don't know how much stock we have to place in that. These things are unknowable until the actual announcement happens. But then we're told that, the Federal Reserve are going to do a 50-point reduction in interest rates next month or as early as next week. So, these kinds of stories just, they tend to exaggerate the movements in the market.
Yeah.
And it's not healthy, because it results in these staggering moves, move 20 points up and 20 points down overnight over nothing,
Yeah.
Well, I guess it was forever thus, but we are definitely at a very critical point in terms of understanding what's going on in the economy.
Yeah, and so let's look at a couple of other pieces of news today. In addition, now just to be sure that everybody understands what Larry was just talking about was, we have these monthly statements by the Labor Department on how many jobs have been created, how many jobs are missing, how many are unemployed, et cetera. And once a year, I think these are readjusted or restated. It might be more often than that, but I think it's once a year. And they're adjusted every month for the prior 2 months. But then again, once every year, there's an overall adjustment. And this adjustment is going to come Wednesday, I believe. And the problem is that we've got this big difference between the household survey and the corporation job survey. And when you get this much of a difference between the two, it sounds like something is missing. That might be where they're coming up with this guess at what the number is going to be on Wednesday.
Yeah, it's only a guess. I wish people wouldn't make these guesses because, firstly, they're not based upon very accurate or very well assembled evidence. And secondly, they roil the markets. They make these exaggerated moves in the market. Why people would trade those kind of rumors, I don't know.
So now we have a rumor, not a rumor, I guess this is an actual quote. This is from 𝐏𝐢𝐩𝐿 on X. He says, just in, Trump says he would consider ending the $7,500 electric vehicle tax credit. And
he's been saying that for a while.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think this is really very newsworthy.
No.
And he didn't say he would, he just said he would consider. Personally, I would like to see it eliminated and or modified dramatically to eliminate hybrids and potentially to drop it down to a lower number, maybe 3,500 or something instead of this number.
I'm with Elon. I'm in favor of getting rid of him completely.
Entirely, yes.
The less government incentivizes it, the better for all concerned. Because ultimately, it'll pressure the manufacturers to bring prices down. ultimately make EVs directly competitive, and there's no reason they shouldn't be directly competitive. And then they'll completely swamp ICE cars.
And
I did post today, one piece that I think is interesting. I was looking at a map. I'm on my way to Texas again to see the launch I'm hoping early in September of IFT5. That's the 5th launch of Starship. And I'm beginning to look at, what part of the United States I haven't seen yet that I'd like to add to my trip. I do these kind of jaunts on the road on my way there and back. And I'm probably going to go to Florida for business purposes down to Tampa St. Pete. But one of the things I noticed as I was looking at the map is just the number of superchargers in my area. I bought my first Tesla in 2017. It was a 3. I ordered a 3 as early as I could, and I ended up getting it late in September. I think it was October of 2017. There were, I think I counted 4 charging stations in like a 150-mile radius, about 150 by 250-mile square radius around where I live. There were like 4 charging Tesla charging stations. I was looking at the map today and I thought, my goodness, there were 60, more than 60. Stop counting at 60. In 4 years.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Those original 4, maybe there were more, but I couldn't identify anything more than 4. They had 150 kilowatt chargers.
Yeah.
Well, now they're all 250 kilowatt. And those 4 chargers had an average of about, 6 posts. Now, these 60 have an average of 12 posts.
Yeah.
So, you can see the incredible difference between now and 4 years ago.
Sure.
And, it's amazing.
Well, Trump and Elon made more news today, and that was that Trump said he will offer Musk a cabinet post or another job if he's willing to take it. So I guess Elon might get his government efficiency department. Now, is that an oxymoron?
It needn't be. The simple way for the government to become efficient is to cut away at all these regulations. Regulations, Elon famously talks about they never die, they just continue to accrue. And they can be very, 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 very stifling. The Supreme Court has made a big impact in the Chevron ruling. That's a huge impact. People don't understand the power of that ruling. It can be very important to us.
Yes.
But yeah, it would be fantastic. But it wouldn't be good. I don't think it would be great for Tesla or SpaceX.
Yeah, just take his time again. Just take another nibble.
Yeah.
Well, this morning, and this might have been part of the reason why the stock was up, Sawyer Merritt posted an excellent and detailed analysis of Tesla Energy and FSD from Piper Sandler. So let's take a quick look. It's a very, very long report, but I'll try to keep it as to the more concise things that are in here. First of all, with regard to the Megapack facility, their takeaways. Chinese companies are ramping up competition. We know that. And they think that by 2030, the market will need approximately, oops, I got that off the edge of the page there.
So I think they said 2 terawatt hours.
2 terawatts. There we go. 2
terawatt
hours. Yes, of batteries, a 20-fold increase from current levels. And that as technology matures, the hardware could become a commodity and Tesla won't be able to compete solely on price, which they already don't. To win contracts, Tesla needs to leverage its ecosystem, including software and inverters, rather than focusing on offering the lowest prices. And you say?
I say that they're underestimating the market. It's going to be far more than 2 terawatt hours. I think there's functionally a 2 terawatt hour market today. We're just not servicing it. And it's very difficult to service it without a few very significant reforms in the United States and Europe. And, you know, I think we'll see an explosion because the demand is there, the need is there. Let me rephrase that. The need is there if the demand is not yet, eventuated because of the very awkward regulatory. It's not only regulatory, it's also the market has been captured by the existing energy suppliers. So there's less government regulation or state level regulation than there is regulation imposed upon the grid suppliers by the energy companies.
Right.
Here we have a true situation where the government have empowered the energy companies to regulate the environment, and they have become monopolies within the within the meaning of the word monopoly. So there is a situation in this country which is damping the demand or the ability to supply the demand.
Right.
So there's a lot that has to happen by way of regulatory reform or monopolistic reform. And so that's true here. Now, globally, it's a very much more complicated question. I understand. I don't know enough about it, but I can't imagine that, Tesla's Investor Day identified, about 100 terawatt hours of demand. So you can see that we have between now and 2030, 2040, we have to build 100 terawatt hours. So 2 terawatt hours is not going to supply 100 terawatt hours.
Yes.
So the takeaway is, and I've rambled a little bit, but the takeaway is, one, the demand is significantly higher, I believe, than 2 terawatt hours currently, never mind to 2030. And number two, it's going to require an enormous amount of work on the part of Tesla and others to break down these barriers.
Yeah, and then they went into a little bit of an explanation, some things we've been talking about for months and months, Larry, but about the weight of these and about the difficulty of transport and how, and also geopolitical factors that probably are going to keep the Chinese manufacturers themselves out of the U.S. market.
Yes.
In terms of export, and also makes a very good reason for Tesla to be putting them in their own factory in China so that they don't have all of these expenses. They can weigh up to 80,000 pounds and take a tremendous amount of effort to move around the world. It says that Tesla currently imports lithium iron phosphate LFP cells, and they did not comment on potential in-house production using the CATL machines. But we've got the CATL machines coming on board in Reno.
Yeah, but I understand it's a relatively limited scope of machinery, of equipment.
That was 40 megabytes, or 40 gigawatt hours
per what?
per year.
Yeah, well, so Lathrop is, I'd like to see that. I'm a little skeptical that it's 40 gigawatt hours a year.
Okay, I think that's what the number. I'd have to go back and double check, but I'm pretty sure that was the number. And that's
Lathrop's entire production.
Yeah, but this is to make the batteries.
I get that, but I'm very skeptical because My understanding was relatively limited scope.
Okay, all right. And then it says Tesla's strategy focuses on localizing or insourcing production to prepare for various potential market scenarios. I agree with that. I would love to see them put one in Europe. Love to see them put one in even maybe in the South Asian area somewhere as well. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm calling for a battery factory in Europe, a battery factory in India, possibly one in Indonesia,
Both.
because Indonesia have got a very large supply of nickel. Although that probably, I mean, the question is whether that is supportive of the chemistry that they're looking for. But I mean, Australia is one of the biggest customers right now.
Right.
And Australia's moved very rapidly and is using a very large number of batteries. So I don't have that kind of level of detail or breakdown, but I could see 4 or 5 factories that, Elon's been very, very conservative in his expansion plans. He's really played it very close to the chest. And so we'll see. Remember, there's a limit to the amount of capital because they didn't raise the capital when I told them to.
Yeah, I suggested the other day, Larry, I can't remember which show it was, that maybe there's also a real chicken and egg problem with these battery energy storage units, because I know that a couple of years ago we were talking about the fact that some of the people that are putting in the solar and the wind were waiting to put in the solar and wind until there was enough batteries. And then, now you got enough batteries, maybe, but when are they going to be delivered? Well, they're going to be delivered 2 years from now. Well, I can't start building my solar and wind place. So
I don't think anything like that's really happening. I think that the bigger problem is we've got probably right now a 5+ year wait for an interconnect.
For the connections.
And so that's really the underlying problem, whether you're building solar, wind, or you're putting in a battery. Now, there's a lot of people that have managed to get interconnects, but a very large proportion of the projects that are mooted never come to fruition.
Yeah.
Not because the solar people are waiting for batteries or the battery people are waiting for, not at all. It's because they're all waiting for interconnect. And interconnect means, connection to the grid. And connection to the grid means getting the local grid suppliers to approve your interconnect while they're while they're planning their own interconnects. And so it's really not a good situation. And I know I just sing this song every time we talk about energy, but it's a very important problem.
So they also reported on the FSD. They said the FSD community tracker that they employ aims to assess how quickly Tesla's FSD software is improving in real-world conditions. Over the last 6 months, they've had 107 users submitting data to their tracker. Data submissions tend to increase in the 1 to 2 months following each release of a new software version. Participants in the tracker are generally diligent, level-headed, and objective. Well, okay. However, biased outliers can be identified then. If they see biased outliers, they can remove them. And they're saying that right now, the latest version, 12.5, can travel 220 to 250 miles between critical disengagements. So what do you think about their tracker?
It's kind of aligned with the other trackers I've seen. It's in that ballpark. One of the real problems is, what is a critical disengagement? So we've had this. I mean, this debate is endless, and you can't really pin it down. But what's more important is not how many critical disengagements they're achieving now, is what has been the rate of improvement. I'm getting a little concerned about how long it's taking to roll 12.5 out.
Yeah.
It's really only out in 10% or 20% of the population out there. And so the question is, what is the delay all about? Is it that they lack the compute resources? Will it be solved with a new installation? These are big issues. These are very, very big issues because it's going slower than I had anticipated or had hoped. So, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago, I was pretty confident based upon what we were told was going to be the rollout, that we would be moving fairly rapidly. But this is a bit of a hitch in the get along.
Well, and they kind of feel that way too. They say disengagement trends show that FSD 12.5 has certainly improved compared to the previous versions, yet the performance of that version is still worse since having come down in quality since the original release as more people have gotten on it. They say it's also because they might be getting ready to put out 12.5 next, 12.6, whatever it's going to be. And also putting it out on the third generation hardware might be slowing all this down. So they're still overweight though, with a price target of 300, which I think is where they've been.
Yeah.
They then went on to urge investors to own Tesla stock ahead of the 10/10 program in October.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Piper Sandler has been a pretty good bellwether for Tesla. They're bullish. They've been bullish for years now.
Yeah. Also this morning, this is also from Sawyer. He said from EWS, in the first 7 months of 2024 in the US, Hyundai, I always pronounce that funny according to everybody, 𝐿 accounted for 10% of all US EV sales. So they were actually second to Tesla, with Tesla's just about 50%, then Hyundai at 10, then Ford was 7, GM was 6. I think back when I wrote the mission, I said Hyundai Kia together would end up being in the top 4 in 2030. I still believe that. What do you think?
I agree with you. I've been hot on Hyundai for a while. I think they're a great company and I think they're doing great things. I really wish they would get with Tesla for FSD. I really do. I think it would be a marriage made in heaven.
All right, we'll put that in big letters out there. I'll use that for the thumbnail. Well, let's people say, well, Andy, we're not interested in watching your channel for politics, but politics impacts business. So I'm going to try to stay as close as I can to the things that are impacting business. So right now, of course, the Harris-Walz campaign is coming out almost daily with some kind of position papers on various different things. And they seem to be aiming straight for Wall Street and our pensions. We had widely first of all, they started out with this, what's been a widely panned plan, say that 3 times fast, to get the price setting going on groceries and rents. Even the Washington Post, USA Today, CNN all panned this price setting, this price gouging, issue.
Anti-price gouging.
Anti-price gouging situation. And today,
well, it's price controls. It's price controls. It's the simplest price controls.
Yeah, and it never works. It didn't work for Nixon. It didn't work for Ford.
Well, it's had a miserable record of failure going back to 1922. I mean, the Soviets tried it they tried to perfect it.
Yeah.
And almost every country in the Eastern Bloc tried to implement it.
Yeah.
China was the absolute, proof point of this. China gave up price controls under Deng, and it opened the markets for them. It changed their lives. It, sent billions of people literally out of poverty. So if they want to try and push us back into poverty, this is the ideal way to do it. I don't know where they get the idea from.
I don't know either. The Washington Post says, if they're already calling you a communist, why would this be where you start? Your very first proposal is price.
No, it doesn't matter what they call you. That doesn't matter. What does matter is that the underlying principles, the underlying theory of the policy is just so well proven bad. I mean, It just is. And so many progressives learned that. I mean, Bill Clinton knew that. I mean, Obama knew it. What is the matter with these people?
So then today she says she wants to, the team, the group, they want to increase the corporate tax rate from 21 to 28%. I
Yeah.
was looking at the highest per capita income countries in the world yesterday for another project, and I realized Ireland is way above the United States now in per capita income. Ireland used to be almost third world country. Now because why? What did they do? They had extremely low corporate tax rates, and lots of corporations decided to make their domicile there, including, didn't Apple make their domicile there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. A huge number of companies domiciled there. And here's the thing. Well, Apple didn't make their corporate office, their corporate domicile there, but certainly the European domicile. And Apple famously then put all that IP into that company.
Right.
I mean, it was crazy. But that's, at the end of the day, the European Union forbade them to do that. They passed a law stopping them from doing that. But it is it is so well known, it's so well understood that I don't understand why, A, she's doing it, and B, why are her supporters and why are her, her followers not telling her what a terrible idea this is.
And then she has been rumored to be in favor of taxing unrealized profits. And I think that would be like the final nail in the coffin in terms
all of these things just require Congress to agree. And I only hope that if she does get in, we have enough power in Congress to stop this kinds of stupidity.
Yeah.
And maybe she's counting on stopping it as, Congress stopping it as well.
It's possible. I mean, again, the question becomes, if you're a populist, and I think she's trying to put herself out there as a populist, then, sometimes the populist one of the populist versions is to be all against big business or be against business, and because somehow that's going to help the people. Somehow, when we talk,
I don't think she's a populist. I think she is a progressive, and I think she really, really believes this stuff. And that is the danger of her becoming a president.
yeah, well, that's kind of where I was headed. So it may seem like a winning strategy now, but I think it's a losing strategy long term. So Larry, was there anything else that was happening today in the Tesla world or the world of business that you wanted to talk about before we look at the numbers?
I was heads down today in tax world. So
The tax world. I haven't done it yet. I just so don't want to. Not because the number is going to be bad, just because I hate doing the work. All right, let's see. Where did we end up here? We had a very good day all across the board. We had the Dow was up 236, the NASDAQ up 245, and the S&P up 54, with Tesla up $6.60. Magnificent Seven all up except for Apple, and Apple was only down 16 cents. And Cathie Wood's group, they were in great shape today. They had a great day. Cathie Wood stocks have started to blossom a little bit in the last couple of weeks. So we'll see what happens with all of that. I have a group of people that always want me to do the percentages, Larry. So I was up 0.58, NASDAQ up 1.39, S&P up 97, or almost a full percent, and Tesla up 3%. That was a pretty darn good day. We don't have much news this week. The big news might be that revision of the employment numbers on Wednesday. I wasn't counting on that part. Then we've got the Fed minutes on Wednesday, and then the Fed speech from the conference on Friday. Other than that, there's just not a lot this week.
There's not a lot this week. And I made a mistake on Friday that said that NVIDIA earnings this week, but I think they're next week.
They are, in fact, next week. The 28th, I think, is what they are.
Yep.
In fact, next week and the following week, the amount of stuff that's going to be happening. We should be back to a lot of volatility next week if we.
Randy, I didn't see gold today. What happened to gold?
Oh, we'll get there. We'll get there, Larry.
We will. Okay.
Okay, let's go ahead and look at. We'll start with the bonds because the bonds to me are still the key.
Yes. Yes.
Let's see. We got bonds. They've changed the reporting again on CNN. I don't know if there's another place I can go look, but the bonds are not showing yet. It's 407 in California. Normally you can see the 10-year, even though you can't see the rest of them. So anyway, but for the day, the 10-year ended up at 3.875, which was down a bit from Friday. The 2-year ended up at 407.2. That is back to almost a 20 basis point spread again.
Yeah.
I just don't know what to say. And the 2-year ended up at 5.284, which is 150 basis points. Larry, there will be books written about this someday, I think. All right. So then we had oil, and oil dropped like a rock. $74.34 for Texas Intermediate now, and $77.66 for Brent. They're saying that was based at least partially on the idea that there might have been some kind of an accord in Israel, some kind of a truce, some kind of an ability to go in and feed the people or whatever that is they need to do in a ceasefire. But the way I read it was, in other articles, I was seeing that the ceasefire seemed unlikely.
A lot turns on Iran. People thought there was going to be an attack.
Right.
And they thought it wasn't going to happen. And then today, I think the general consensus is we've forgotten about it. We just forget about it. So, if they do attack, it'll come as a hell of a shock, and the market will take a 5-10% hit, and oil will go. Oil could go up $10.
Good.
In 1 hour.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of going up $10 in 1 hour, holy cow, natural gas continues to be just as volatile. It's just unbelievable. It was up something like 6% today, sitting up at 224 again right now, and up another 0.27 in the pre-market. All right, now we'll get to your gold, Larry. Gold's up $1.10. So that's not as much volatility, but it's sitting at 2,542.
Oh, man.
Now, I don't know if you heard, Larry, but somebody gave me a hint in the comments again that in order for gold to be an all-time high, adjusted for inflation, it needs to get over 3,000. So
I remember very, very vividly the day gold hit $800. This was I'll have to place it at about 66, 68. No, it would have to be 68, 69. Hit $800. Now, US dollars from 69 to now, I mean, that's about $2,700.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, easily. Yeah. All right. So that was his point, is it's got to get to 3,000. Silver up 0.79, almost back to 30.
Yeah.
And copper up 0.4 at 4197, a long way from the 5+ that it was a few weeks ago. So that whole rumor mill, speaking of rumors about how much copper there wasn't in the world, all of a sudden turned out not to be true. Dollar even against the euro, up a little bit more against the yen, been going up a couple of days against the yen, up 1.12. Bitcoin under 60 still, kind of just hanging out under 60. Not a lot of volatility recently. Just poised. Wasn't it supposed to go up a lot within 2 to 3 months of the halving?
That was the story. That was the story we were given.
Yeah.
Unclear.
All right. And the pre-market is, I could make this really fast. It's UNCH. It's UNCH. It's UNCH. The NASDAQ is the only one that's moving at all, and it's only up 14 or 0.07%.
I think the market has to take a deep breath at this point. Can't continue at this rate. Has to take a deep breath.
Yeah.
we may see a little bit of a downturn. So, you know,
Yeah, at some point, it's up, isn't it up 8 days in a row now? I think,
incredible. Yeah.
and it's up a lot.
It's
Um,
completely obliterated that, that panic of 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Was it a week ago or 2 weeks ago?
I think, yeah, I'm sorry, Larry. It all starts to run together.
It does, doesn't it?
It's not just age either. It all runs together for everybody. Everybody's,
Amazing.
yes.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think I'm tending to agree with you. I think there's a point. Okay, first of all, I think we could have a surprise on the jobs number. We'll have the surprise this week, where if they write it down 690,000, that will be a huge surprise. But then we come up a week from Friday. Is that right? Yeah, a week from Friday. No, it's 2 weeks from Friday. It's September 6th. It's a long way off before we get the jobs number. But I would not be surprised to see that stagnant or actually drop a point. From 4.3 to 4.2. And if that happens, along with a meh result on the CPI, we might not get a price drop from the Fed. Then we can see my 10% pullback.
Yeah, so the big drop is on 8.5, and so it's not even is it even a week? Yeah, it's a little bit more.
Yes.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago today. Okay. All right. Well, Larry, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. By the way, Tesla's down just a tad in the after hours.
Yeah.
And so we'll see if we can build on that 222 tomorrow. And any last thoughts, last words of encouragement? This is good news Monday.
It was good news Monday. It's been a good couple of weeks. If you'd bought at the dip, which I recommended to people not to do, you would have made out like a bandit.
But you also recommended NVIDIA, and that turned out to be a good deal.
Yeah. Yeah. So I did add quite a significant amount of NVIDIA. Actually, I bought some leaps in NVIDIA.
Okay, well that's bad. Well, then you should have made another small fortune.
I did okay, but everything's up. So
Yeah.
generally the market's been so good to us in the last couple of years that it's very hard to lose money in this environment.
Yeah. It takes hard work. Larry, thanks. Oh,
Take care, young man.
thanks so much, and to all of you out there, it's been great talking to you.